We've been here before, right? Once or twice before?
Just once.
Just once before. Good space. It's warmer in the summer than it is in the winter. But it's a good sized space. So, is this where you hold the Bhakti Vriksha group? Sometimes.
Yeah.
And rotation?
It comes in rotation. Right.
Okay. So, Raghunandan's not here.
He's upstairs.
He's upstairs. If he could come downstairs, that'd be nice. Chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita?
Yes, ma'am.
Text 47 or 48?
47 we did.
Karmani Vadakaraste.
Correct, yeah.
So we're ready for 48 now?
Yes.
So, 248 Bhagavad Gita and this other question about forms of Vishnu, Krishna, Ram. I don't know if they fit together, but
No, they don't fit together.
they don't fit together. Okay. Let's start with 48, so there's some continuity. Of course, your Bhakti Vriksha gathering is probably not on a Wednesday night, but that's okay. I'm not from Gujarat, but I know some people that are, a few people. And I was told by more than one Gujarati that the previous verse is the verse, if you ask a Gujarati audience that aren't Hare Krishna devotees, what's the single most important verse in Bhagavad Gita? Like, what's the message of Bhagavad Gita? Summarized in one verse. So I was told that in Gujarat the answer you're going to get is 247. Kamrani vadikaraste ma palesha kadachana. You're entitled to perform your prescribed duty, but you're not entitled to the result of your prescribed duty, the phala, the fruit. So what do you do with the fruit? Well, if you're a devotee, you offer the fruit to Krishna. You perform your prescribed duty and you offer the fruit to Krishna, which is very similar to, it's a different aspect of, perform your prescribed duty and always think of me, from another place in Bhagavad Gita, an essence message. Always think of Krishna. And we spent a whole holiday weekend discussing Smartavya Satatam Vishnur. What's the next one? Vismartavya Na Jato Chit. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna under any circumstance. Always remember Krishna. So one of the ways to always remember Krishna is that he's the enjoyer of the fruits of your activity. So you offer the fruits of your activity to Krishna. That's the connection between those two very important verses. This other one is from Padma Purana. Sarva Vidhi Nishedhasyur Etayor Vikinkara. Those two principles, the Vidhi and the Nisheda, the injunction and the prohibition, they're the monarch of all Vidhis and Nishedas. The Vidhis and the Nisheda, the do's and the don'ts, they're all kinkaras. They're all just servants of that principle. Always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And one who is always remember. So I'll say it again. Those who are always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna, what do you do with fruits? You offer it to Krishna. I remember some years ago, where is Sachi Kumar? Yeah, on the back of your car was a bumper sticker. Remember what it said? What did it say?
Offer it all to Krishna.
Offer it all to Krishna. Offer it all to Krishna. The fruits of your work. And then that's one sense of offer the fruits of your work to Krishna. That's karma yoga. And then a more complete form of karma yoga is bhakti yoga. Is everything is for Krishna. Our breathing is for Krishna. It's our existence. Who we are is part and parcel of Krishna. We're meant for service to Krishna, not just the fruits. Because in part, there can be different mentalities. One mentality is incomplete. I don't want the bondage of the fruits of my activity, and so in a liberationist idea, I want karma-free activity. I don't want the bondage to my activity, and so I'll offer the fruits to Krishna. And bhakti is not a liberationist idea. A bhakti is whatever happens, it's for Krishna. This is the teaching of Mahaprabhu, the teaching of bhakti, and the teaching of Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi, that's this second half of chapter 2. It's not just Karma Yoga, it's Buddhi Yoga. Vyavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Kudanandana. Consciousness fully fixed, Eka, singularly fixed on Krishna should be pleased. Krishna Eka Sharana. Krishna is my only shelter. And from that, automatically the fruits go to Krishna. There's nothing else. Bhakti is the pinnacle of all yoga systems. That teaching comes later. Madgatain antaratmana. Same as this smartavya satatam vishnur. Madgatain antaratmana. Madgati. Antar atma. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur uses this phrase a lot. The whole aspect of our subtle being, aside from the senses, mind, intelligence, and false ego, is meant for being dedicated to Krishna. And then your senses following what the subtle being or subtle aspect of life does. The senses follow. The senses then are engaged in activities for the pleasure of Krishna. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sevanam. Senses are engaged in service to the master of the senses. So bhakti and buddhi, I'm going through this because it's the second half of chapter 2, Buddhi Yoga. They're in one sense synonymous, but there's obviously a distinction. That's why there's two different terms. Buddhi is the spiritual intelligence that guides the activities of the subtle body and the gross body. Say it again. Spiritual intelligence, that's what comes from Super Soul, is what guides the subtle body and the gross body of the living entity, and that way they become spiritualized. And it's with the submission or the purpose of pleasing Krishna, that's the bhakti part. So there's the buddhi part and there's the bhakti part. They're inseparable when they're done properly. But the buddhi part is that which is the intelligence, direction-giving force of the Supersoul. You know, how to go to Krishna. As Krishna says in the 10th chapter, Dami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyanti te. Krishna gives the intelligence how to come to him. So that's spiritual intelligence that guides the subtle being and the gross being. That's the rocket fuel that takes you to the spiritual world. The desire to please Krishna. Krishna, seeing that, gives the intelligence how to get to Krishna. We can't do that on our own. We're lost. We're tiny creatures in a dark place. So we need Krishna's kind help, part of which is, a major part of which is the spiritual intelligence. How to rightly direct our senses, our emotions, and our contemplations, our subtle existence and our gross existence, in such a way that Krishna will be pleased. So, karmani varikaraste ma paleshu kadachana. You have the right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities. Na ma karma pala hetur bhur. Ma. Do not karma pala hetu. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the fruits of your work. Karma pala hetu. Ma. Never. And ma te sangostvi akarmani. Never be attached to not doing your duty. So that's a little preliminary for the verse for this evening, 48. Yogastha kuru karmani. Perform your duties equipoised. Yogastha. Stha means to be situated in. Yogastha. Situated in yoga, or Prabhupada has translated this in the word for word as equipoised. You know, this word or contemplation that devotees often ask, how do I make a balance between my material and spiritual life? You know that question? The answer is you don't have to make a balance between your material and spiritual life. You have to see everything as part of your spiritual life. And then you have balance. Yogastha. Equipoised. You have to do time management, but you don't have to be a balance between. Like it's either something material or something material, and how do I not spend too much time on the spiritual side or too much time on the material side? It's a standard preliminary stage of spiritual life. Let's call it a misconception of what spiritual life is and what material life is. Material, simple definition. Material means forgetting Krishna. Spiritual means remembering Krishna. Balance between how much time should I forget Krishna and how much time should I remember Krishna? It's a misconception. But when you're equipoised, yogastha, you're seeing, like from the previous verse, the work is connected to Krishna, and the fruits of the work is connected to Krishna because everything is connected to Krishna. That's the yogastha person. They're never considering themselves to be the cause of the results, nor being inactive. In other words, if you want to be liberated, as a misconception, karma sannyas. Just stop working. Give up your duties. Never give up your duties. Ma te sango stu akarmani. Never do that. Abandon your prescribed duties. And when you're doing your prescribed duties, never consider yourself to be the cause of the result. If you're not the cause of the result, what's the cause of the result? Well, it's described elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita. Material nature. And material nature is under Krishna's direction, so remote control. Krishna is the cause of the result. As it belongs to him. Don't be a thief. Offer it to him. He's kind. He'll let you take your quota, what you need for your requirements. And whatever additional is not required, and you use that in some other way to serve Krishna. That's a life of devotion, a life of offering everything to Krishna. Offer it all to Krishna. So, perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna. Sangam Chaktva, Dhananjaya, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Okay, so some of you are students. You can just abandon all consideration of how well you do in your exams. I just heard Prabhupada, it was a morning walk conversation, and he told a Bengali story, Bengali joke or story, and his reference was people that have a misconception of divinity, which leads into the topic that you wanted me to also speak about. So there was a young boy, and he had an exam, and he came home from the exam, and his parents asked him, "How'd you do on the exam?" He said, "Well, the questions that I didn't know the answers to, I didn't bother to write anything. And the questions that I knew the answers to, I didn't bother to write anything." Because I already knew the answers, so why bother writing the answers to what I already know? Parents weren't very happy with the boy. And Prabhupada was using this as an example of a conception of divinity where, well, he was speaking about a view that some sections of Christianity have, and then he was saying, but it's true in other faiths, that I'm less than perfect, but the good news is Christ died for my sins, he's taken a contract, and I can go on with my sinning. And it's on his chart. It's his charge, it's his responsibility. And then those instructions that he gave that I can't do, well, he's very merciful, and I'll just... It's a life of irresponsibility. A life of devotion is not a life of irresponsibility. There's injunction and there's prohibitions. There's regulations that one should observe. The regulations are not the essence. He was just explaining that regulation helps, doesn't guarantee, but it helps eventually to bring the mind under control. So which comes first? Do I get my mind under control and then I can bring my senses under control? Or do I regulate my senses to help bring my mind under control? One helps the other. It's not either or. One helps the other. And Chaitadarpana Marjanam, our process begins with chanting. And chanting and chanting. Of course, with faith, eventually more and more faith. But then that chanting leads to cleansing of antakarana, this subtle existence. And then the subtle existence becoming purified from chanting, then the desire to serve Krishna becomes stronger. That's beyond the subtle existence, that's the soul. And then directing the senses towards those things that are pleasing and away from things that are not pleasing to Krishna. On the strength of an awakened desire to be Krishna's servant. So these are second chapter messages. In one sense, they're preliminary to a mature stage of bhakti. In another sense, they're within the mature stage of bhakti. Not just by regulation's sake, but by devotion's sake and by maturity of Krishna consciousness and spiritual intelligence sake. So, without attachment to success or failure doesn't mean I'm not striving to please Krishna. I'm striving to please Krishna. I'm not striving to get a good result or avoid a bad result, to be rewarded or punished. I'm striving to please Krishna. And the reward is Krishna's happiness. And with Krishna's happiness, that's my happiness. So I'm seeking happiness, but not happiness by getting reward and avoiding punishment. Bhakti. And the intelligence that drives it is buddhi. Such equanimity, samatvam, yoga uchate. Now, chapter 6 is dhyan yoga, and there's a lot of the samatvam, one who sees equally pebble stones and gold and so forth. Equal vision, pandita samadarshana, vidya vanaya sampane, brahmani gavi hastini, shuni chaiva sapakicha, pandita samadarshana. It's a samatvam, having the quality of equanimity. So a yogi, and a devotee, by the way, is a yogi, a bhakta yogi, is progressively having this quality of equanimity. That is, whatever's going out there in the world of duality isn't determining my enthusiasm or my laxity or my pleasure or my pain or my happiness or distress or what enlivens me and what disturbs me. That's the mature stage of bhakti. And that's the goal. So there's symptoms of one who has the quality of buddhi. Going back to the earlier section of this chapter. Let's hear what Prabhupada says. Krishna tells Arjuna that he should act in yoga. And what is that? Yoga? Yoga means to concentrate the mind upon the Supreme by controlling the ever-disturbing senses. And who is the Supreme? The Supreme is the Lord. And because he himself is telling Arjuna to fight, Arjuna has nothing to do with the results of the fight. Gain or victory are Krishna's concern, semicolon. Arjuna is simply advised to act according to the dictation of Krishna. The following of Krishna's dictation is real yoga, saying it in reverse order. And this is practiced in the process called Krishna consciousness. By Krishna consciousness only can one give up the sense of proprietorship. It's a big subject. Proprietorship. The whole of Ishopanishad is proprietorship based. Who is the proprietor? One has to become the servant of Krishna, or the servant of Krishna. That is the right way to discharge duty in Krishna consciousness, which alone can help one to act in yoga. There's another short paragraph, but there was a big storm in New Jersey, the whole East Coast. So I was supposed to go to a Bhakti Vriksha gathering on this past Friday, but it got stormed out. The Tuaco temple lost power. Something fell on a power line, and the power line fell to the ground, and the whole area was without power. And even the temple has a generator for backup power, but the power lines are on the road, and the police were on the street not letting anybody come by. Even if devotees that lived in the building, they couldn't cross the power lines. So they called off the Sunday program. But the topic they wanted to discuss at the Bhakti Vriksha group on Friday was Lord Kapila Dev's teachings, or Lord Kapila Dev and his teachings. So when we hear Lord Kapila Dev, a little light goes on. Sankhya, because that's what this section is. Sankhya, Krishna says it. And that was, text 39. So this is only 48. Sankhya. So Sankhya is taken to mean, it literally means count, and it's taken to mean the analytical study of matter and spirit. So that sounds pretty philosophical. So what does Sankhya have to do with Satya Yoga, where the process is meditation? Right? In Satya Yoga, the process for perfection is meditation. So what does Sankhya have to do with meditation? Well, meditation on what? Meditation on spirit. Well, what's spirit? Well, it's different than matter. Okay, there's our categories of matter over there, and here's the categories of spirit. What are the categories of spirit? Well, there's the soul and there's the Supreme Soul. Okay, and then meditation on the Supreme Soul. Okay, but you have to know what's what in order to do meditation. If you don't know what's what, good luck. I met somebody recently, Indian, young, well-educated person. I'm feeling the last 6 months my life is turning towards spirituality. I was so much before oriented towards academics and pursuit of career and becoming established, and this seems to be a new horizon and something, etc., etc. I learned this from childhood, but I got distracted by education and career pursuit and, establishing myself in the world. And so I'm doing some meditation now, and I asked what kind of meditation, and they said the sounds of silence. And I didn't have to ask them, what do you mean by that? They were ready to tell me what they meant. I can hear sounds when it's completely silent. And without all the rest of it, my whole forehead seems to glow in a molten gold, orangish color, and hearing the sounds of silence. And what meditation would you recommend for me? Is that spiritual? Whatever the sounds of silence are out there, that's part of the material energy. Whatever it is that you're hearing. I wasn't making fun of they're serious about their meditation because they didn't know. They didn't have any direction. So sacred sounds or mantra, the names, we're so fortunate. We don't have to go searching around. It was given to us. names of Krishna. Within Krishna is everything. This person had faith in that. So just in Krishna's name, everything is there, including the sounds of silence and the sounds of noise and everything else. Everything. 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 You can't think of something that's not within Krishna's name. Everything is there. It's Nija Sarva Shaktis. All spiritual potencies are there. And that's within this purport. Meditation on the Supreme. Well, who's the Supreme? So this goes to the conceptions of divinity. A little sharing. Had a nice conversation with Nityananda Pran the other day on how it's going at Illinois Institute of Technology, IIT, Chicago. He said he had a 4-hour class that started with the topic that he only got halfway through it. And the topic was conceptions of divinity. And his plan was to start with, like the Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 1. Pantheism, seeing God within nature. And then polytheism, which is very close to pantheism, conceptions of divinity. And then Supersoul, and then Bhagavan. He didn't get even to Bhagavan. Just going through those conceptions, because then people had a zillion questions. Just understanding that there are different conceptions of divinity, and according to faith and association, because association helps to nourish faith, one will have a different conception. Like meditating on the sounds of silence. Where'd that idea? Someone had that idea, and they came across somebody that had that idea, and it sounded, hey, that sounds cool. The sounds of silence. Pretty mystical. Let's meditate on that one. So, there's different conceptions of divinity, and at least within our devotee community here, I understand there's a little confusion about the conceptions of what we call in the Hare Krishna movement or Vaishnavism as Vishnu Tattva. So Vishnu Tattva is a category. Tattva means a truth. The truths about the reality about Tattva. The Tva, just like this Samatvam. Tva or Tvam means having the quality of, or somethingness. So Vishnu Tat Tva, that having the quality of Vishnu. The quality of Vishnu is like Parashara Muni in the Vishnu Purana describing Bhagavan. And Bhagavan, a definition that Parashara Muni gives, is one who possesses the spiritual opulences or bhagas in fullness. And he identifies 6: strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, renunciation. What's the other one? Huh?
Knowledge.
Wealth. Don't forget wealth. And one who possesses those opulences in fullness, that's Bhagavan. And Bhagavan is in the category of Vishnu Tattva, just like Bhagavad Gita, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Now, our acharyas help us understand that when Krishna is speaking, anyway, there are different features of Vishnu Tattva, like that. The Brahma Samhita explains this differentiation in a number of ways. Ramadi murtishu kala niyamena tishtan nana avataram. Nana avatar, various avatars. Beginning with Rama, Ramadi murtishu kala. Kala is a term that means, Bhaktisiddhanta's language, a portion of a plenary portion. What does that mean? A portion of a plenary portion. Well, it's a subtle distinction between Govinda, who is the Adi Purusha, Govindam Adi Purusham. He's the origin of everything. And from that origin of everything comes expansions, like Balaram is his first expansion, and Balaram is his expansion, and then there's expansions of his expansion. And the expansion of his expansions that have to do with material creation, or forms that appear within this material creation, this is in this category of Kala. They're all Vishnu Tattva. Govinda, Balaram, the Chatur Vyuha, Sankarshan, Vasudeva, Pradumna, Aniruddha. They're all Vishnu Tattva. And then Narayana, who expands from Sankarshan. And then a second Chaturvyuha in the Vaikuntha realm. And from that second Sankarshan comes the Purusha avatars, the forms of Vishnu that have the function of material creation. And they're all Vishnu Tattva. They're all appropriately can be called Bhagavan. Then there's some subtleties that aren't so important. They're not so important, but there's subtleties of difference. And I don't know if I need to go there. I'll go there. One of our, this is subtle. It's not something that you hear a lot in the Hare Krishna movement because it's from Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami wrote a book on the topic of the forms of the Lord as they appear in this world. The avatars. From the spiritual realm, forms of the Lord may descend into the material realm. That's called an avatar. And he wrote a whole book, and the BBT has published it. It's this thick on that topic. And that's one of the 6 questions in Canto 1, Chapter 1. The forms of the Lord as they appear in this world. Can you describe them? There's a short section, Canto 1, Chapter 3. There's another section in Canto 2. And then there's long, expanded sections that come later in the Bhagavatam where it's describing the different avatar, Leelas. Nrsimha, Varaha, Matsya Kurma, Varaha, etc. Leela avatars, the Purusha avatars, Shaktivesh avatars, and so forth. Different avatars. But amongst those avatars, there's an avatari. What's that? It's the source of the avatars. There's the same tattva, but one is the source of all the others. Now, what's the source of all the others? From the Brahma Samhita, the verse that I just cited, Govinda, or the principal verse. Get out a trumpet The principal verse in the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What's that? It's the principal verse upon which all of the 17,999 other verses rest. It's very powerful. It's a foundation upon which the whole of the Bhagavatam rests. Well, what is it? What is it? Ete changsa kala pungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Ete cha angsa kala. There's that word kala again. Remember? Portion of a plenary portion. And there's angsas and there's kalas. And all those various expansions, they're arising from one. And that one is Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. So Krishna has this unique position. He's the avatari. And no problem for Krishna that when he appears in this world as an avatar, he appears as an avatar of Vishnu. We've all heard that, right? There's avatars of Vishnu. It's right in the Bhagavatam. Krishna is listed as an avatar of Vishnu because chapter 3 of Canto 1 starts describing, because the question is, what are the forms of the Lord that appear in this world? It starts with the Purusha avatars. Mahavishnu, Garbhadakshay Vishnu, Shiradakshay Vishnu, and then the avatars of Vishnu. And Krishna is in the list. And then it goes back and says, of all these in the list, one is the source of them all, and that's Krishna. Swayam Bhagavan Krishna. So he's the source, then he appears as an avatar of Vishnu. And that's not a problem. He can do whatever he likes. He can appear however he likes. He doesn't need to appear as an avatar of Vishnu, but he appears as an avatar of Vishnu. And Vishnu is an expansion of his expansion. Is it all right? So, Krishna is the source, and then there's various expansions, and then some of those expansions, they make their appearances in this world. And Rama, at least the short list I was given, is there's Vishnu, there's Rama, and there's Krishna, and they're not separate entities. They're expansions of the one entity, just like another verse in Brahma Samhita. If you have a lamp, it's Diwali time, and from the lamp, other lamps are lit, and you fill the temple room or your home or wherever with lamps. And each lamp has the same illumination power as the one from which it was lit, but one has the unique position of being the origin of all the other lamps. Very simple. So, in one sense, one entity, the various expansions and kalas and so forth. And in another, and they're all Vishnu Tattva. But Krishna is the source of all Vishnu Tattvas. He's the source of all expansions. So Rama is in the category of a Leela avatar when he appears. Vishnu is in the category of a Purusha avatar. And the avatari is Krishna. And they're all Vishnu Tattva. Then it gets a little more refined. This is Laghu Bhagavatamrita, this thick book by Rupa Goswami. He refers to sections from Padma Purana that says, of these different categories of avatars, there's one that has equal power. There's one category, forget the term, starts with an S. There's one that has equal power with Krishna, and that's Rama and Nrsimha. Sadaishvarya Purna, but there's another term. That all six opulences in full, and the other avatars they exhibit somewhat less, and others exhibit somewhat less, and others exhibit somewhat less. Although they're Vishnu Tattva, they're Bhagavan, they just don't exhibit the fullness of the potencies. But Rama and Nrsimha, according to Padma Purana, which Rupa Goswami quotes, they have the same fullness of potency as does Krishna, but Krishna is still the avatari. It's subtle. We don't talk about that in ISKCON so much. But it's there in the scriptures, and Rupa Goswami makes reference to it. Between the two, Rama and Nrsimha, Rama exhibits more sweetness, or intimacy of exchanges. Now, there's intimacy in his exchanges, Lord Nrsimhadev's exchange with Prahlad, and with other devotees also. But Lord Ramachandra exhibits intimacies that are amazing, with so many associates, different varieties of those loving exchanges with his different associates. Many, many, many very intimate exchanges, not just with Sita, but with so many, his brothers and his father and his mothers and Hanuman and so on. There's one entity, variously manifested to reciprocate the nature of the love of the living entities for him. The Lord exhibits, he is the best of enjoyers, and his enjoyment is reciprocating the love of his loving devotees, and loving devotees are unlimited in number and unlimited in variety, and so there's forms, are different forms with different exposures to his unlimitedness. To me, it makes complete sense. I guess to some people they get confused. Why so many forms? He is unlimited, and there's unlimited living entities that are reciprocating with his unlimitedness and his limited rasa. He is the reservoir of all rasa, raso vaisaha. And he shows forms according to the affection of his devotee. That's the kind of person he is. He's a loving person. Just like, you know, you're doing with your daughter here. Here she is in your lap with her little book and middle of class. You're just reciprocating with your daughter. It's lovely. You know, it's not the same with, you know, the other ladies in the room or the men in the, you know, there's different relationships with different people. It's completely natural. And we do things like that. Why Krishna can't do things like that? He does things like that. He shows different features of himself according to the nature of the love of the persons who approach him. It's completely natural. And what's the limit? There's no limit. Is there a source to all of this? Yes. Krishna. And that's right in the purport. A yogi is one who fixes their mind on the Supreme. Well, who's the Supreme? Conceptions of divinity. And out there in the spiritual marketplace, there's all kinds of, there's bogus conceptions too, abundant. And then there's authorized conceptions. And there's mixtures, and pretty confusing. Therefore, having the guidance of a qualified teacher, like our founder Acharya and Srila Prabhupada's books, you read his books carefully, and the picture starts to get more and more clear. You have to read carefully. You can't understand everything right away, but everything is there. The medium for understanding is bhakti. It's the mood, entering into a mood, awakening the mood, it's already there, awakening the mood of serving Krishna. There's a way, there's a science of awakening the desire to love Krishna. And our primary means is sound vibration. Like a person that's sleeping, how you wake them up through sound. So sound awakens that bhakti propensity that's dormant within, and then realization of Krishna can grow and grow and grow and grow. If we do the bhakti process properly, carefully avoiding offenses, and carefully bringing our attentiveness, our capacity of awareness to that sound vibration, trying to understand how to love Krishna. And when Krishna sees that you're doing that, he'll give the intelligence how to come to him. We can't do it on our own. With his helping hand, helping intelligence, giving us the strength, etc. It's what he wants. We act in accord with what he wants. Nothing can stop it. Not even our own weakness. Krishna can cover for us, help us. Okay, so those are our two topics. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 48, and these different forms, Vishnu, Rama, Krishna. Are they the same? Are they different? What are they? Conceptions of divinity. Any discussion? Yes?
Krishna Maharaj, Krishna is saying that we should not be attached to not doing our duty. So could that also be understood as we should be attached to our duty? Attached to doing our duty?
That's a nice question.
We are doing, should we be attached? Should we be like having attachment to that work itself? I mean, fruit is one thing, but attaching yourself to the work.
Well, you ready for a clear answer to your good question? Be attached to Krishna. And so what that means is, if I'm attached to my duty, what if Krishna wants, okay, you've been very good, you've been doing your duty nicely. Now I want you to do some other duty. Well, I can't do some other duty because I'm attached to my duty. Say the same thing in a different way, same thing. Prabhupada, is it okay to be attached to your devotional service? Prabhupada said yes. But if the spiritual master gives you some other service, then you should become attached to that some other service. Let go of the attachment to the previous one. So it's attachment to whom, not what. On the authority of Krishna, or representatives of Krishna, that's going to help us understand duty. And propensity for duty can change. Exactly, this was in Prabhupada's morning walk conversation I was just hearing today. Otherwise, there's no meaning to awakening Krishna consciousness. So awakening Krishna consciousness, Krishna says, I want this. And we weren't thinking anything about Krishna wants this, but we heard Krishna wants this. So that becomes of interest to us. Prabhupada's point was, it's already within. Love for Krishna is already within. We just, So yes, you can be attached to doing your duty, and if you're duty assignment is modified, become attached to that. So actually we're attached to the person, not to the activity. Does that help?
Maharaj, I have a similar question.
Yeah.
We do remember Krishna all the time, but when we
Well, you do. Congratulations.
but when we actually work or do attach with some other works, we tend to forget and we.
Not tend to forget.
So how do we again? Is there any way how we can always live in the consciousness?
Yeah, practice. You cultivate. That which you're attached to is that which you think of. And our conditioning is we're attached to the temporary. And we have to awaken the natural, that's a diseased state. The natural state is to be attached to the eternal. Yeah, it takes cultivation, practice, abhyasa. One who strives by right means is assured of success. It's actually natural, and the natural overwhelms the diseased condition, the attachment to the temporary. Very simple example given in Nectar Devotion. Within a small child, there's walking propensity. Because there's walking propensity, with practice they can learn to walk. They just don't have the motor skills. And they, tumble and get up again and tumble again. But eventually they become toddlers, and then the next thing you know, they're running around, you can't stop them. So, like that. So, because walking propensity is within. So, attachment to the eternal is within. It's already there. Just has to be awakened. And the tendency is distracted by the temporary. So when one is attached to the eternal, it's not, I don't care about the temporary. You see that as an aspect of opportunity for service to Krishna. So you do that for Krishna. Thoughtfully, wisely, consciously, mindfully, for Krishna. Take practice, like walking propensity. Yes?
Maharaj, when we were discussing verse 47 in our Bhakti Vriksha, especially for that sentence, like never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities. There was a question and a discussion. I think the essence of the question was like how to understand that particular statement, but the scenario that was given to bring out that question was, I found it like very unique and interesting, because the scenario was people could misinterpret that statement or understand that statement wrongly, and they could even quote that statement as a justification to say that, okay, a
being
person
lazy
kills another person and say, okay, I just did the action, but I'm not the cause of the result of my action.
It's true. They're not the cause of the result of the action. You can try to kill somebody and you won't be able to kill them. Everything is being carried out by the material nature. That's elsewhere stated in Bhagavad Gita. But it's not that I have no part to play. I'm not the cause of the action. But there's 5 factors, and endeavor is one of them.
So, how to understand that particular statement?
We're not a non-entity. That's how to not understand it. and how to understand it is we have a part to play, but it's being carried out by material nature. Material nature is under Krishna's direction, and Krishna is in one sense, Krishna is the cause, but he's the remote cause, and more directly, material nature is the cause. And we have a part to play. We make some endeavor.
And we also have a responsibility to act properly.
Of course. Although we're not the cause of the action, we have a part to play. Our responsibility is to play the part. Act in a theistic way, in our language, a Krishna conscious way. We're not the cause of the result. Our host invited a number of people to come for this gathering. He's not the cause of the result. It's not. You didn't determine how many people are going to come. They made some choices. Some people couldn't come. Some people's whatever. We're not the cause of the result. We have a part to play. I'm responsible for the part that I play, but not the cause of the result. I need to know what my part is and how to play it and how to be mindful of Krishna while I'm doing it. That's what I'm supposed to do. Anything else? Where did this Vishnu, Rama, and Krishna thing come from? Is that going around in the group, or?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody want to get some further clarity on that one? Either it's clear or I've intimidated you all or something. I'm looking to see if somebody's looking at somebody to see who the questioner is. No one's looking. You're very respectful to one another. Or else you don't know. Okay, so thank you all very much. 8:35. Maybe we can have a little kirtan at the end, and so that whoever's in charge of prasadam can do what they have to do for prasadam. And I brought with me something. How to say this properly? Every year for some 30 years or so, I've been making pilgrimage, taking groups of devotees in pilgrimage to India, different holy places. And in the last couple of years, we went to Dwarka, and then we went to Ayodhya. And the devotees that are the organizers of this, they bought this really fancy camera. It's a high-resolution camera, very costly, and it took the videos of the thing, to make the videos available, and then the kirtan, and then the images. They had to figure out a way to compress it down. I don't know how do you do that, but they had to get something or other, software to make it so you can make it available. So, good news is they finally figured out how to do that 2 years later. So I have with me some videos of Dwarka and Ayodhya, the Katha, the Kirtan, and the places we visited. I remember this girl from last time. She's a very interesting personality. Okay, so if you're interested to have a copy of each one, I can give you one or two. There's a cost in the USB stick or flash drive, or they call them different things, and the production is together averaging out around $20 for each one. And there's some service that I'm doing within the Hare Krishna movement for some number of years it requires some financial assistance beyond my capabilities, so I'll gladly make these available, and if you would like to have one, you can have one. You request a donation that helps me do my service. So at the end, when we're all done, you can come and I'll give you whatever you ask for. Shankadara, what's the plan? Could you speak?
Yes,
What's the plan?
the plan for those.
If they wish to contribute, what should they do?
Either way, whichever way you want to.
What should they speak to you, or what should they do?
Yeah, speak to me
Or Raghunandan? You're aware of this? Okay. Okay, so let's have a little kirtan. You can sing?